Be silent. I think that the farmers market is a great place to go, and people who make baked goods, that sell baked goods, whether they make a profit or not, when a consumer buys those, most of the time they know that they're not made in a kitchen that is of commercial grade. Most people that go to the farmers market, whether they go there one time or they've gone there for 20 years every week, know that these are made by public people in our community, and so I would like to hear from, there's two gentlemen that sell baked goods. If Lisa Brault wants to talk, she can, but I think it's something that definitely needs to be addressed and get some communications started. I heard that there's a study session on April 27th at 5 o'clock at 201 Kenyon Road, and that's a Champaign-Urbana Public Health District study session, and I guess maybe this will be brought up there, but I've in 3 days heard from about 20 people, and so that's too many to not say anything. So that's my 2 cents on it. Let's support local vendors who make the farmers market a fun place to go, and who make it so that we can take good baked goods home.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to comment? Do they have cards? Okay, Dan Irwin.
Yeah. Oh.
You can just have a seat at the table there, and the little black thing is the microphone, so if you could sort of direct your voice to that.
Little what?
And would you please state your address, your name and address, and your, could you keep your remarks to 5 minutes or less?
Yeah, I think I can get that.
Okay. Thank you.
I live at 403 North Russell Street, Champaign. And I've been a baker at the farmers market for more than 20 years. And what I don't comprehend about what Jim Roberts is doing is the fact that this was all hush-hush. Nothing was said about anything. There weren't any problems. My wife and I have been at the market for 20 years, and as far as I know, the rules haven't really made many changes whatsoever, if any. And then all of a sudden, 2 days before we're supposed to be signing up for this season, this was on Easter weekend, on Saturday, I got this letter saying, in short, you can't do this anymore. You don't have an approved kitchen. And it came from out of nowhere. I don't understand why this was done this way. He doesn't seem to want to speak to the public about why he's doing this. If he's saying this with the public or public health, then why hasn't it been done before? And why can you still bake those goods at home and give it to charity, and yet if it goes to you personally, no, it's against the rule. And I don't know how I can contact anybody about this, about to change this over. This isn't right. I've invested quite a bit of money, not only with the goods this season, but also I got a 10-quart mixer that I bought just last year, and that was $1,000. And then I guess you might say the supplies for the baking goods, that's minimal. But many others, as I have heard, have already made plans. There should have been a warning ahead of time so that there could be a discussion, but there wasn't. And I have heard of nothing from Jim Roberts about his reason why he did it, but most important, when he did it, why he did it at this particular time. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I did get something from Carol Elliott. She's on the Public Health Board, and we talked about this last week when Lisa Braultz brought it to my attention that this ruling had come down. And they're talking about, that says, to clarify effective immediately, that the Public Health District will accept non-potentially hazardous baked goods prepared in non-commercial kitchens when they are offered in a limited nature. And above that is a quote saying that potentially hazardous baked goods such as cream or custard-filled items, egg-based or custard pies, pumpkin custard, etc., must be produced and packaged in an inspected facility and held under refrigeration of 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. But other things, non-potentially hazardous, would be cookies, cakes, or fruit pies, may be prepared in non-commercial kitchens and sold, provided the bake sale is limited in nature, less than 14 days of consecutive operation. Would that solve your problem? Or
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Because, we've had these rules for a long time. I know you can't make any pumpkin pie.
Okay.
Your custard. And
Unless you keep it refrigerated. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or if it's being, if they know for sure it's done in the right process of doing it. But that's the kind of stuff I've been producing for 20 years. And I've been careful to follow the rules. But that's not what he's saying in here. It says if you don't have an approved kitchen, you can't do it.
I think that they may have changed.
When?
Well, she just handed this to me tonight, and so we've been talking about it. I called the Director of Public Health last week, Julie Pride, and then the gentleman that you spoke of, is it Mr. Roberts? Yeah. The other Mr. Roberts. Yeah.
Not me.
I talked with him, too, and he seemed to be kind of, that was the way it was going to be. But it looks to me that there might have been a change here, but we'll have to check it out, because certainly a lot of people are
Could this be
concerned
put
about.
on TV or radio or
Well,
something like
let's check it out. I mean, I didn't have a chance to talk to Carol, so she
In
just
that
gave it
case,
to
there
me
wouldn't
tonight.
be any change whatsoever.
Well, maybe so. So let's find out, but we are working on this question to see if we can come to some more reasonable resolution of it.
Well,
Yes.
I appreciate
Okay.
the opportunity to put in my 2 cents.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Dennis?
It might be interesting to ask or pursue the question about allowing people who are spending and putting a lot of effort into the production of home goods, and it might be an important second income for these people if they're in retirement or have limited incomes, how they can have their kitchen checked and get impressions and ideas about what it would take to meet the standards of an approved kitchen. Because if there is such a thing as just a certain number of, electrical, plugs in the wall, and you need a stainless steel basin to wash them on, it might be useful for the public in general to know what it would take to have the approved kitchen that would allow them to do a wider expanse of bakery.
The approved kitchen can't be within your household.
Yeah, I did ask that question of
Okay.
Mr. Roberts, and he said that their inspection system does not cover home kitchens. It's only for commercial kitchens.
Commercial kitchens, okay.
Lynn?
So it sounds like they're recanting their original statement and opening it back up to what were the rules, and so the problem is not a problem anymore?
Well,
This is good.
if that's what Carol meant by giving this to me tonight, we'll track it down and make sure that that's correct. But
We
yes.
like that.
Yes, Brandon.
Yeah, so I guess I wonder, and maybe this is a question for Lisa, but do we have, this is really timely, people are, I'm sure, as you said, preparing on a day-by-day basis for the market. Yeah, we have a few Saturdays left. Is there an email list or a phone tree or a mailing list? I guess once we figure this out, what can you do to get it out to folks in a really timely way? Because every day they're preparing for the first day of the market. Yeah. Yeah, what can you do to notify the vendors right away with whatever we find? Because it is really critical.
Oh, yeah, I can get a hold of all of them
Okay.
quickly. I've been in contact with these guys or with Mr. Irwin's wife. I've been in contact with her. It's very easy for me to get a hold of everybody.
Great.
The thing that you were talking about, I had not heard that until just now.
Do we
but-
have any reporters here?
Yeah.
We may. Okay, Mr. Reedy, would you like to speak? Oh, sure. And again, your name and your address, and please keep your remarks to 5 minutes.
300 seconds will work.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for hearing us. It's a small pebble in the, Jim Reedy, 206 South Maple Street in Urbana, 432 steps that away from here. Thank you all for listening to a couple of griping old men that have, well, one old man. The information that the mayor just quoted, I have heard before, and I think somehow or another the CUPHD interprets it different than we would, not favorable for us. So your willingness to look into that and do some more clarification for us, and to get with Lisa so she can get with us. There's really a small amount of people at the market involved. I think 4 or 5 vendors, but Dan and I both like to think that no one can live without our baked goods. And as far as them being safe, I feed them to my kids and grandkids, and they're safe. I feed them to neighbors and friends, and they're safe. And Dan's done the same thing.
And
So-
you're not doing the custardy kind of things?
No,
Okay,
no. And I try to keep the dog hair and stuff out,
okay.
or rat feces.
We appreciate that.
So I guess that clarification of this new information would negate me taking up any more of your time. Again, thanks for listening to us.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to address the Urbana City Council on any topic? Or a council member? Okay, I think Reverend Burks, would you like to say something? Okay. Come on up. You know the drill.
Yes. My name is Reverend Troy Burks. My address is 809 East Park Street in Urbana. Tonight, Madam Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to talk and just offer my suggestion in regards to the reauthorization of the Civilian Police Review Board. In my personal opinion, and I want to say I wear many hats in the community, so tonight I am not speaking to you on behalf of the Ministerial Alliance. I'm actually speaking to you on behalf of the mayor appointed me in regards to the NAACP on the task force, so that's how I'm speaking to you this evening. But what I'm suggesting to the council is that there becomes more dialogue in regards that, in my personal opinion, and being on the task force, as the extensive amount of time we took to bring it to council, I think the council should take that into consideration also in the reauthorization process. So I just wanted to present that to you this evening, and I thank you for this time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Did you want to say something, Dennis? Dennis Roberts.
Yeah, now that the public has had a chance to come forward, I'd just like to say on behalf of the city that we're going to have a very interesting and a special event this week on Wednesday morning at the 11 o'clock. There's going to be a dedication of a bronze plaque at the boyhood home of Roger Ebert, who's a well-known movie critic and a past resident of Urbana. He has a lot of important ties to our community, and he comes back every year to celebrate the art of movie making at the Ebert Festival. He's going to be at the Virginia Theater this weekend, but he is, last year, the city's 175th anniversary was occurring, and we wanted to celebrate in the month of April the importance of some of the noted individuals in our community. And talking with the mayor, we decided that we would like to pursue the idea of dedicating a plaque at his boyhood home, which is at 410 East Washington Street. And we did make a proclamation or an announcement at the last year at the Ebert Fest opening reception. And so we're very proud this year to have the plaque in place and ready to go, and the dedication ceremony will be at 11 o'clock, as I said, and we will expect Roger Ebert to attend and accept the plaque in the honor. So I invite people to come by and experience this unique event. The date again? The date is Wednesday, the 22nd at 11 o'clock in the morning. And it will be at the site, 410 East Washington Street. That's corner of Washington and Maple in East Urbana.
Okay, thank you. The next item is old business, ordinance number 2009-03-018, an ordinance approving a text amendment to the zoning ordinance of the City of Urbana having to do with outdoor lighting standards. Is there anyone here that wants to comment on that?
I'd like to move this, I'd like to approve this.
Okay, motion by Barnes, seconded by Bowersox. Any other discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next, reports of standing committees, the Committee of the Whole.
Okay, I would make the report.
Dennis Roberts?
Yeah. So I'm reporting from our previous meeting, which was on April 13th, and we had a list of items that we sent forward to the City Council for their consideration. And so I'm going to read those items. Item A, ordinance number 2009-04-034, an ordinance amending Schedule J of Section 23-183 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code, prohibiting parking at all times on certain streets. And for the Committee of the Whole, I move its approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Barnes. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Okay.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Sorry
Thank you, Mayor.
about that.
I think we can believe that's true. Ordinance 2009-04-035 now comes before us. An ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Champaign, the Board of Trustees of the University of Illinois, and the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission for the review of signal clearance intervals, and these are at targeted intersections in the Champaign and Urbana area. And for the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Lewis. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay.
Mr.
Next comes ordinance number 2009-04-036, an ordinance reauthorizing the establishing of a civilian police review board. And for the committee of the whole, I move its approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Bowersox. Any further discussion? Mr. Bowersox.
I did have a couple questions for Todd Rent about this CPRB reauthorization. And I think they're quick. Thanks for letting me ask some questions. I know I wasn't able to be with you all last week. And thanks, Todd, for all the work you did on this. I really like the way we should review more ordinances. It was really helpful, I think, to have like a time where the public could submit letters, submit comments, come to the commission. You all could review it and put things together. It has been a very good process, and I support the changes in timing and everything. My quick questions for you are about some of the other issues, one of them being community outreach. I know when we created the board, one of the things I thought was so exciting was that there would be a board that was really proactive about assessing the strength of the police-community relations and telling us as a city what we can do to further improve those relations. And so it's some of that proactive community outreach that I'm excited that the board can now start doing now that it has some free time and the training is done and there aren't any cases and appeals coming. What, from your perspective, can the board start doing and will the board start doing in the next few years to do that proactive community outreach that I know a number of people's letters addressed and requested?
Yeah, I think I can address that. Well, at this point, I think the board has come to a point where we have been able to develop the administrative rules and procedures so that, and I talked about this last week, so if we have a hearing, we feel fairly confident that we have the mechanisms in place to appropriately deal with both parties or with all parties to make sure that there are no due process violations, to make sure that everyone basically receives a fair shake. But I think also very importantly, it's important to consider that the individuals who have been appointed to the board come from very different backgrounds. You know, they come from different cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, educational backgrounds. There's a great deal of educational diversity. And I think that as each one of the board members read the ordinance, I think everyone tends to read a text in a different way. And I think that the last year or so that the board has been seated has given them an opportunity to come to a common understanding of that language and that text. And I think that basically that is absolutely essential prior to going out and speaking in public venues about the ordinance. I think we could all imagine the result if two people went out, let's say, to a church and decided to speak on the ordinance, and they had varied or different understandings about the actual administration and implementation, the meaning of text in the ordinance. So, you know, I think I share your enthusiasm that I think we are at a point now where we can begin that community outreach. And I would probably amend your initial statement to say from several years to really the next several months is what we will be doing. And we will be looking to build and forge, and I say we as staff support, you know, I will be facilitating development of relationships and communications with various community groups and various religious organizations all across the spectrum. And we will be getting board members in those meetings talking about the ordinance with the intent of helping people to understand and have a better idea of what they should expect from their interaction with Urbana police officers.
Great, thank you. My second question for you is about the quarterly and annual report piece. And again, you all might have covered this last week, so I apologize if you're covering all ground, but it would be helpful, as I look back through the ordinance, those pieces were in there. It would be helpful, I think, to have that kind of reporting for us to kind of see, okay, there were X many complaints on these sort of topics, and they were all handled by the chief with no appeals. That kind of reporting would be helpful. So is there anything other than the direction that you need to get going on that reporting piece now that we're up and running?
No, we have the database that we've, and actually I call it a database because that's what the ordinance calls it. Really, it's just a spreadsheet where we keep all of the pertinent information that's required by the ordinance and some that's even not required that will help us with internal record keeping. That is put together. You all saw an example of that, print off of that last week in your packet. We will be submitting that quarterly in compliance with, I think it's section 1923C or something. We'll be submitting that quarterly. In addition to that, the board was actually seated on April 21st, 2008. And so after April 21st, which will be after tomorrow, basically we will begin development of the annual report. We hope to have that completed. My office, I would project to have that completed by mid-May at the very latest. It will not be a particularly long document, seeing as we haven't been doing anything other than producing materials, and you guys have seen all of those materials. So, but we will be producing that annual report, and we will be submitting quarterly reports within the staff reports for your review. And if you have any questions about those quarterly reports, I am always available, and I'm certain that the chair of the board also is available to respond to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks. My one last comment I just want to leave you with is I will be voting yes. I really supported creation of the board. I still support it. I look forward to further, proving to citizens that we have an open and transparent process, and that, that our police are great, and that whenever there is a problem, we'll look into it. So I will be voting yes. The felony issue is the one issue that I wish I had a different option for, but I know we all committed to the police contract, and so ending the felony disenfranchisement and allowing felons to, after they've served their time, to serve on this board is something I think we should do. But I know we can't do that yet, and so I look forward to the next police contract and to in future years being able to open up that issue and change it. So I support things as is, and thanks again, Todd, for your time on this.
Yes, sir.
Dennis Roberts.
Todd, I have maybe information that I just want to, perhaps get a comment from you on. I know that when we heard the report about the discussion, and I have had a conversation with one of my neighbors who serves on the board, who was somewhat upset that there wasn't a clear understanding of the presentation of the vote on the felony participation discussion that came out of the panel, the review board panel. He thought his opinion. This is Mr. Scott Dossett. His opinion was that it was an important thing to consider, and that there should be no discrimination in the policies of the police review board, and he felt that it embodied basically a discriminatory act against somebody who's served time and come back to the community as a reformed individual, we would assume. So he stopped to my house to let me know that he still had concerns in that area, and we've heard in the conversation about the police contract. Do you have any more insight on that?
No, I have no opinion that I would express in this type of form. I'm a staff person. Okay. So what I will ask, though, I just want to clarify, there should have been in your packets last week a memo that basically outlined the notes from the Civilian Police Review Board ordinance. Yeah. And it should have contained all of the recommendations that, and actually a detailed reporting, and I'm looking here at the actual report where we actually reported on that discussion that was held in the Civilian Police Review Board. And I think that's very important for us to dispassionately report the information and the topics that are discussed there. So I'm not exactly sure, certainly from a staff point of view, we're not going to take a position on that. The only position I think that we could possibly take is we want to make sure that everything that we do is in compliance with all existing laws and the current contract.
And as far as we know, we were given the vote of the board on that issue, correct?
Yeah, and actually it's in the memo.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. Which is right, it turned out to be a recommendation to approve the existence of a felon, the participation of a past felon on the board.
Yes, sir. It's under recommendation number 2.
Okay. Well, maybe for future discussion we can pursue that question.
I think Robert Lewis was next, and then Heather.
Yeah, in light of where we are at this point, and I think that, and I have to agree with Mr. Bowersox that there are some things we need to talk about in great detail with regard to human rights and how this body feels about that issue. And I know there's a movement right now in the state and in Washington, D.C. to address this issue. And it's one I think we can be proactive on as a body. But until we have a new contract, we can't address that at this point. But I would expect to have some significant dialogue on this subject in the near future.
Heather Stevenson.
Todd, this might not be a question for you. Maybe you do have the answer. It says on here the budget. What is the budget for the?
You know, I couldn't tell you the actual numbers. They're upstairs. For the CPRB, yeah, we have a budget that basically are a few line items that are attached to the overall Human Relations Office overall budget. So I certainly know that there's money for training, there's money for office materials and meeting materials, there's money for publication and community outreach. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you the specifics. It was just what was deemed as appropriate.
I think it's pretty small.
Okay. I guess I just wonder how much they haven't even seen an appeal, and so I just wonder if we're spending money on something that is never going to happen, and I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to where we're putting our money. So.
Well, it's not that it's never going to happen. It's that, right, but the fact that they exist gives us the opportunity for the community outreach, and also that we're making a statement about how open we are about our government, that people who have complaints, if they're not satisfied with the initial treatment of their complaint, they do have an impartial body to go to. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We have a motion by Roberts, seconded by Bowersox. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
No?
Okay, that motion carries. Mr. Roberts.
Now we have to consider ordinance number 2009-04-037, an ordinance amending section 12.5-34 of the Urbana City Code concerning waiver of fees authorized under the rental registration program. And for the committee of the whole, I move its adoption.
Second.
Okay, motion by Roberts, seconded by Lewis. Any discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes?
Mr. Roberts.
We have next ordinance number 2009-04-038, an ordinance approving the City of Urbana and the Urbana-Champaign and Champaign County Home Consortium for the year 2009-2010 Annual Action Plan. And for the committee, I move its approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Stevenson. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes?
Okay, that motion carries. Mr. Roberts.
Resolution number 2009-04-015R is a resolution approving participation in Illinois Housing Development Authority first-time home buyer single-family program, an MCC program, Series 2009. And I suppose that also can be considered with the next resolution. I think they were tied together in our discussion last week. So I'll continue with resolution number 2009-04-016R, a resolution evidencing the intention of the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois, to transfer volume cap in connection with private activity bond issues, single-family mortgage revenue bonds, and related matters. This is a private bond cap allocation to Assist Urbana, Series 2009. And for the Committee of the Whole, I move their adoption.
Second.
Okay, motion by Roberts and seconded by Barnes to approve the two resolutions, F and G, on the agenda.
Yes.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Mr. Roberts.
Okay, and finally, we have ordinance number 2009-04-039. An ordinance amending Chapter 22.5 of the City of Urbana Code of Ordinances to add new sections to Article Roman numeral 9, requiring a cable and video service provider fee and PEG access support fees. For the City and for the Committee of the Whole, I move their adoption.
Second.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Lewis. Is there any discussion? Ms. Stevenson.
I think this question was asked, but this, and I just want to confirm that this doesn't inhibit any negotiations that we have going on with Comcast.
No, it doesn't. This would be for cable and video providers who are not negotiating with the city individually, but may be choosing to pursue a state franchise agreement by state statute.
Okay. Any other questions? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries.
And that would be the end of the report from the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Okay, reports of special committees. I don't believe we have any. Report of officers. Any officers?
Two of them.
We have two officers. Okay, Libby Tyler, Community Development Director.
This is an announcement and reminder. We are working with the Champaign-Urbana Urbanized Area Transportation Study on an update to our long-range transportation plan. There are a series of public workshops that are going on this week, and the one that will be looking at Urbana will be Wednesday night, April 22nd, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Urbana Civic Center. That's at 108 East Water Street. And this will be looking at the long-range transportation plan, formal presentation, existing conditions review, and group workshop. And the public is welcome.
Thank you. Tony Foster.
All right, good evening. My name is Tony Foster, and I'm one of the division chiefs with the fire department, and I would like to go over our new program that we have partnered with a lot of our emergency service providers, and that's ChampaignCountyPrepares.com. That is the way that citizens, Urbana citizens, can receive text and email messages when there's an emergency. Oftentimes with a weather emergency, more than likely, but possibly like another type of emergency, as an example, like an active shooter. That as a buzzword, and you can receive the same notification from the University of Illinois, as this is the same vendor that they use. There's going to be quite a large press release later on this week, and we wanted to inform the council prior to that, so in case they had any questions about that, they could easily refer people to our website, and they could easily sign up. And we've partnered again with Champaign Public Health, as they're funding the majority of this for us and for the other communities, and allowing then for our citizens to be notified. So if I could just take a few minutes on your screen here, I'm going to show you how easy it is to sign up for this. I hope this works. Let's see here. It's called me on the carpet here. There it is. Okay. So it brings up our great website, and you can see right there in the What's New section, it brings up the emergency preparedness for Champaign County, and we plan on advertising this for everyone at different community events by handing out this little card, and we're able then to hand this out, and people then can take that home and remember it. But this whole site here basically shows different things and reasons why you would need to be notified, whether it be something terrible like the bird flu or an anthrax problem of some issue. That would be something that would be sent out. We've heard of the bird flu and different things like that. But more importantly, we're going to get weather events, and that will be something that will really come about more so than anything else. If I expand this frame here, you can see then it shows us exactly how to get started. It gives you general directions here as far as putting in your name, then my email address, then confirming that one more time. I see that. Thank you.
There's a mathematical law that says that your typing accuracy is inversely proportional to the number of people who can see it. Since you're broadcasting this over UPTV, you've got really on the bad side of that curve.
You guys are really getting to me here. FOST. There we are. All right. Supposed to show you how easy it is, not how hard it is. Okay, and then it gives you the option as well to put 2 different zip codes in. If you work outside of our area, you can put in an optional zip code to be able to get information from a different area. I'm going to choose not to do that. Then it allows you then to check different messages, being all messages. If you want to get messages from the University of Illinois, anything that they would be sending out, which would be a scripted message of some type of an emergency, you can certainly get that. Any air quality issues, and certainly any weather issue, which is something that is usually pretty important. Okay?
Can we get an avalanche or something?
This is made for
the Boneyard
for
tsunami.
everyone. So if we're getting a tsunami in Champaign-Urbana, I want to know about it. So I'm going to check that.
I'll be very concerned myself, I know.
I'd be really concerned.
Yep. Then it allows me to put my telephone in. And then also then selecting my provider, okay, which it brings all of those up for you very easily. Then you can also put in a second one if you like. It reminds you then, if you read the fine print, that you could be charged for this from your provider, although this is a free service, but your cellular telephone provider may be charging you for these texts. So you accept these terms, and just like that, I'm signed up. And it will be sending me then a message here pretty quick on my BlackBerry telling me that I've in fact been signed up and I'm all ready to go. And just like that then, you're ready to go with all the necessary messages that may be coming out. It'll also send you a test message once a month as well to remind you if you need to change your information. As an example, change your address, change another email or something like that. So it's really pretty easy. And again, we're going to try and educate the public quite a bit with this by handing out these cards at different events that we're going to so they can take it home with them and sign up. Okay.
Robert Lewis?
How do we know whether the provider will charge us or not?
That is a great question. That is a question that you can ask your cellular company or your wireless provider, and they would be able to address you with that. You know, you always see, and there was a joke by the vendor with that, you know, if you read the fine print on some of these text messaging, different commercials and so on, that standard charging rates do apply. Now, from Champaign County Preparedness, and also from MySpace, which is the group that My State USA, not MySpace, My State USA, that is the group that they're not charging anything to put this out. But when it comes across your provider, that may be the case.
Well, I just worry about that little girl that had $4,000 bill a month.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough for your children.
Sure.
Okay, I got one.
Dennis?
And so for the small amount of people who may not sign up for this, we can still rely on perhaps the siren and other kinds of techniques for being warned of severe weather warnings and such as.
That is a very good question, and that is exactly right. The siren will still go off as planned.
Okay.
We also, if you have a weather radio, that will work as well. This is a direct line to Weatherline, which is the direct feed that goes to NOAA. So sometimes your alert may be going off even before your weather radio would be going off, but just seconds before. It's not going to be minutes before. But yes, those are still in place, but this is just a way of you being mobile and being able to get the latest information, no matter what it may be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other reports of officers? Okay, let's move on to new business. Ordinance number 2009-04-042, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement with the State of Illinois Department of Agriculture, and this is the Illinois Farmers Market Advertising Grant. Lisa Braults.
Good evening. You have before you an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement with the State of Illinois Department of Agriculture. This grant proposal was written in fall of 2008, and Market at the Square was selected as a recipient in March 2009. The ordinance and the grant agreement are the same as last year's ordinance and grant agreement, but this year's award is for $7,500 and will be dedicated solely to television advertising, spotlighting the market's excuse me, child nutrition and farm linkage programming Sprouts at the Market.
Heather Stevenson.
I'd like to move the approval.
I second that.
Okay, motion by Stevenson, seconded by Roberts. Any further discussion? Mr. Roberts.
Just really good job. Excellent program, and the fact that you received the funding is really positive. There was a lot of competition, it looked like, for that funding, and very good job for the farmers market.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next is ordinance number 2009-04-040, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Urbana, Illinois. This is the rezoning of 2003 and 2005 south of Philo Road from B1 neighborhood business to B3 general business.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Myers, the planning manager. The two items on your agenda that follow each other, actually 4 adjoining parcels on Philo Road, and there are 2 property owners who have applied at the same time to rezone the property from B2, from B1 neighborhood business district to B3 general business district. And again, there are 4 properties that adjoin each other. The first applicant is Stephen Happ, who has submitted a petition to rezone 2003 and 2005 South Philo Road to B3 General Business District. One of these parcels is a vacant building where Carl Clinic was located, and now they've relocated to their own new facility, still in southeast Urbana. The southern lot is occupied by an inline shopping center with 3 commercial spaces, and 2 of those are occupied, and one of those is not occupied, though. If you look in your packet, although B1 Neighborhood Business District is a zoning district really tailored for neighborhood commercial, You'll see in your packet, for instance, Exhibit D, and also with, let's see here, especially with Exhibit D, the Philo Road Business District. You'll see that Philo Road obviously is an entire district of community shopping. It's really not the neighborhood, small neighborhood commercial center that the zoning necessarily would indicate for these two parcels. In fact, the entire corridor is already zoned B3 General Business District, except for these four adjoining parcels at the old Carl Clinic site. And so with that, the first application came in to rezone the property, and city staff, knowing because the Philo Road Business District is so important for not only the success of business in the community, but it's also also an important goal in terms of policy for business development in the Philo Road Business District, that would contact the neighboring property owner, because they would, if this property were rezoned to B3 General Business District, they would be left the only B1 zone property in the entire corridor, and they also applied as well. Clive Fulmer, who is the owner of 2001 South Philo Road and 1401 East Harding Drive, and he is also applying to rezone from B1 neighborhood business to B3 general business. Again, Exhibit D in your packet really tells a big part of the story. For instance, across the street, there's already Renner Wyckoff, Grace United Methodist Church, the Closet Space, Southgate Plaza. To the north, there's Family Video, Gold's Gym, True Value, County Market. Again, this is an entire corridor of commercial properties. So with that, the Planning Commission has recommended 6 in favor and 0 against to recommend for approval for both of these applications.
Ms. Barnes.
I'd like to recommend approval of ordinance number 2009-04040.
Okay. A motion by Barnes, seconded by Stevenson. Any further discussion? Mr. Bowersox.
Yeah, I just had one question for you, Robert, which is, does the change in zoning allow any different level of signage than there is now? I know one of the tenants at 2005 in the inline shops that are kind of turned sideways contacted me, this was more than a year ago, about, that it's hard to tenant those spaces and hard for her to run her business because of the limited signage. You can't see that there's 3 separate inline shops and it's not really visible from the street. Is there any additional signage that's now allowed if we proceed with this change to B3?
My recollection is that yes, because typically with the neighborhood business district, you want to keep the signage really in scale with neighborhood business, but in B3 General Business District, it's more community oriented. So they would, if this were rezoned, they would have the same signage allowed that all the other businesses up and down the corridor currently have.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So basically on that question, in this district, are we, would we expect to see pedestal signs built, or could we see pole signs at this time?
Currently, freestanding signs are allowed to be pole signs currently. The Plan Commission is actually going to review this Thursday night at their Plan Commission meeting a requested ordinance change by city staff to require monument signage for new signs in the B3 General Business District, other than for signs oriented toward the interstate.
So if we pass the ordinances concerning these businesses and the upgrade in their business zoning status, at this time before those are adopted, would we expect to see, I assume then that the current standards would be applicable to these properties rather than the standards we might see in a few weeks?
At whatever time they would apply for the application for the sign permit, they need to abide by those requirements.
I see. So I'm just wondering if that would have any effect on our discussion as far as passing them tonight, or maybe sending them to a meeting 2 weeks from now. Or do you have any feelings about that, concerning the potential signage status?
Brandon Bowersox.
Yeah, I guess I'm not so worried. I think when we asked that sort of question about the shops, the Atkins development and the signs at the Pines, you know, I think it was Libby Tyler who had pointed out that, yeah, as a practical matter, no one could, now that if we do change this tonight, no one could rush and get a sign application and get a vendor to draw the diagrams and get all the paperwork in a matter of days. This Thursday is the Plan Commission, and I know it'll be here soon on City Council's door. So I guess I'm not worried just because of practically, you know, if they're going to get ready to start putting a sign up there, they should just look at the new rules and.
Along those lines, if I could add, like Clive Fulmer's space at the intersection, that's been vacant for about 2 years now. So it's not likely that in the next few weeks they'll be able to draw up a new tenant and then apply for new signage and get that approved. It's just, I don't think that's going to happen, honestly. Although it will, according to Clive Fulmer, and I think that's correct, it would help them remarket the site for new tenants because there's be a wider range of uses that would be allowed for that location.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion by Barnes, seconded by Stevenson. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yep.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries. Finally, ordinance number 2009-04-041, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Urbana, Illinois, the rezoning of 2001 South Philo Road and 1401 East Harding Drive from B1 neighborhood business to B3 general business.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, motion by Stevenson, seconded by Barnes. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yep.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.